Which school landed the biggest transfer during the offseason? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah, and welcome to Fanco Wrestling, where we talk about the latest going on in the college wrestling news scene. And this week, we're talking about the most impactful transfers of 2021. So these are guys who made the decision to transfer from one school to another throughout the end of the season into the off season, which is currently going on. So these aren't guys who already made the transfer from last season, talking about specifically a guy like Greg Kirkfleet, who has already been transferred for so long. Whether they're a graduate transfer or they're, unfortunately their program shut down, which is kind of like this first guy that I'm going to talk about in the most impactful transfer, the seventh most impactful transfer, and I do have 7 guys, and that is Shannon Hannah. Now, Shannon Hannah is transferring from Old Dominion to Campbell. Now, unfortunately, that isn't of his own volition, considering the fact that Old Dominion decided to shut down the wrestling program, which is very, very unfortunate situation. But I think the reason that he's impactful here is he's a 133-pound wrestler. He's a sophomore, and he fills a nice gap for Campbell. Campbell will be losing Noah Gonzer to graduation this season. And Gonzer was a top, I believe, 10 ranked wrestler going into the national tournament at a stacked weight at 133 pounds. Now, Campbell does have a guy here, a 5-time state champion in Gabe Hicksonbaugh, but these two are going to be battling out for a spot. And I think that Shannon Hannah adds some nice depth to the lineup, considering he was 13-8 in his freshman season, 4-2 overall in MAC duels, and I think he will be very solid for the Camels. Now, moving on to the next guy, and this has to be Killian Cardinal, and I be honest with you, some of these guys that I'm ranking right now, it was tough to rank where I put them in line. And the number one guy may surprise you. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But Killian Cardinal is transferring from Old Dominion, another ODU guy, transferring to West Virginia, and this will give some a solid lineup to West Virginia at 125 pounds, considering Cardinal is the number 14 ranked wrestler going into the 21 season right now. Now, Killian Cardinal, he just fills a nice gap for West Virginia and, again, gives the team a little bit of a bump up. I think this may be able to help West Virginia win a couple of those closer duels and just put them a little bit over the edge. Now, are they going to be a top 10 team? Probably not, but do they have the chance to get a couple more quality wins? I believe so. Cardinal is a 2020 national qualifier, 25-9 last season, and he plays second in the MAC. Now, he will have a tougher schedule transferring from Old Dominion, from the MAC to Big 12. I believe he'll have a little bit tougher of a schedule, but we'll see how he fits in, and I think that's important. Now, the next guy here is Mitch Moore. Mitch Moore is a 149-pound junior, and he's not an Old Dominion guy. He's actually transferring from Virginia Tech to Oklahoma. A very nice transfer for him. Now, he fits nicely into an already solid Oklahoma lineup. And unlike these other two teams that kind of had maybe a little bit of a gap there, I think that maybe there's a gap here, but I think it just gives more depth to the Oklahoma lineup. And I think that's what's the most important thing here. Mitch Moore has some quality wins in the past over Cole Matthews and over Tariq Wilson. And granted, those are ACC wins, but I mean, those are some solid guys at the 149-pound weight class. Now, he actually did wrestle his now teammate in Dom Demas last year at Cliff Keen, Las Vegas, where he lost to him 6-4. And to lose to Demas 6-4 just shows that this is a tough kid. And I think, considering he's also a 2-time national qualifier, I think that Mitch Moore's got some bright lights in his future, and I think he's going to be very solid for these Sooners. The next guy here is another Old Dominion guy in Mike Magee. Michael Magee is a redshirt junior coming, again, out of Old Dominion. Very unfortunate what happened to that program. That cannot be stated enough. But he is transferring from Old Dominion to Arizona State. He is a redshirt junior, number 17 at 133 pounds, going into 2021. Now, Magee will be a nice replacement for the senior in Josh Kramer of Arizona State, who has graduated last year. Because Arizona State is also losing a couple of guys that were very influential in their lineup. Talking about Zahid Valencia, talking about Josh Shields, talking about Maruka. I mean, these are just solid guys that Arizona State's losing. They need these new guys to step up. And I think now they could have a solid 1-2-3 punch in Brandon Corney at 125, Magee at 33, and Cleve Love at 141. Going to be very impressive. Now, Magee actually took a redshirt year last year. It was undefeated. During that time, no notable wins during his redshirt year, but I think it's important to note that he had a solid win, and he had a blood round finish at the national tournament. Now we're getting into our top three, and the number 3 guy, and again, like I said, number 1, maybe you agree with it, maybe you don't, but the number 3 guy here is Brody Teske. Teske, the 125-pound sophomore transferring out of Penn State, going to Northern Iowa. Now, he's a little bit earlier of a transfer than a lot of these other guys, but I thought it was important to include him in here since he hasn't really even wrestled any college matches yet. Now, I think that he pushes Northern Iowa into a much stronger team if he breaks that spot at 125 pounds. Could push Northern Iowa into that top 25, into that possibly even top 20. Now, Northern Iowa is a team where last year I think they were right there on the precipice, right there on the cusp of being a very solid team. Obviously with some great guys, but I think that this year with Teske, it's going to be even better. They also have Michael Blockus at 141, Jacob Horschlag at 197, and Carter Isley at heavyweight. This just makes for a better team overall, and I think that this 4-time Iowa State champion with a 175-1 high school record is going to do some solid work at 125 pounds for Northern Iowa. The next guy here is an impactful transfer in Zac Wyler. Wyler, 184-pound senior, number 14 right now in the preseason at 184 pounds, which I believe is a very up for grabs weight, a very difficult weight to win in. We'll see how Wyler does, but he's transferring from Lehigh to Wisconsin, and this is important. I think the reason that I have him ranked so high on this list is because Wisconsin is in need of desperate help. Yes, they have the number 1 recruit coming into their class next year, who may or may not be in the starting lineup, but the unfortunate part is they're losing half of their lineup, including one of their top guys in Seth Gross, who is a national title contender. Yes, they still have Hilger at heavyweight, they still have Christensen at 97, and they still have Evan Wick at 65, but they're in some desperate need of some help, and I think Wyler is able to come in here now with having some quality wins in the past, placing second in the EIWA. Like I said, going from EIWA to Big Ten, that's a big jump, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, but I think that he's going to do well there. Now, the number 1 transfer, the most impactful transfer, I believe, for this season is Tate Orndorff, going from Utah Valley to Ohio State. He is a heavyweight, a junior, and the number 8 ranked guy going into 2021, ranked right now in the preseason by Flow Wrestling. Why is this so important? Why is this so impactful? It's impactful because Ohio State lost their number 1 recruit in their class last year of Greg Kirkfleet, transferring from Ohio State to Penn State. Now that they get another heavyweight, I believe this is even better. Now, you may be saying it's an Ohio State fan. What about Gary Traub? Yeah, Gary Traub is a solid guy, and Tate may not even make the lineup depending on how wrestle-offs go, because I think Traub really stepped up and showed that he is a gritty guy. But you need a guy here now in the lineup who's able to beat those All-Americans, and Orndorff is a guy who has beat former All-American Josh Hokett. He's beat a solid guy in Gannon Grumman of Iowa State. And yeah, he's going to have a tougher schedule, but we'll see how he does. Now, if you're wondering how Tate fits into the overall Ohio State lineup and how the lineup looks from 125 to heavyweight, you're going to be interested in this video where I dive deep into Ohio State's lineup preview for the upcoming season. Make sure you check that out right here.